Google wasn't supposed to lose the AI race. For nearly a decade, it looked unstoppable. It had the smartest researchers on Earth, the biggest AI labs, unlimited computing power, billions of dollars, and years before the world had ever heard the names ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. Google had already solved one of artificial intelligence's biggest problems. From the outside, the future of AI belonged to one company, Google. But history has a strange way of rewarding invention and punishing the inventor. Because the technology powering today's AI revolution, it didn't begin inside OpenAI. It didn't begin inside Anthropic, and it certainly didn't begin with ChatGPT. It began inside Google's own laboratories. What's even harder to believe, Google didn't lock this breakthrough inside its vaults. It didn't patent every piece of it. It didn't hide it from competitors. Instead, it handed the blueprint to the world for free. Within just a few years, that same blueprint would become the foundation behind the most powerful AI systems ever built. And the engineers who created it, many would eventually leave Google. Some would help build new AI companies. Some would compete directly against the company that trained them. And in one of Silicon Valley's greatest ironies, Google would later spend billions supporting one of those competitors. If all of this sounds impossible, that's because almost nobody saw it happening. This isn't the story of how Google fell behind. It's the story of how the company that invented the future accidentally helped create the competition now chasing it. And to understand how that happened, we have to go back to a time when Google wasn't chasing anyone. It was leading everyone. Chapter 1, The Kingdom of AI 2010. Long before artificial intelligence became the hottest race in Silicon Valley, Google quietly assembled what many believed was the greatest AI team ever created. Inside Google Brain, researchers weren't trying to build a better search engine. They were trying to answer one impossible question. Can a machine truly understand human language? Not translate it, not predict the next word. Actually, understand it. Google recruited the brightest scientists from around the world. Computer scientists, mathematicians, neuroscientists, linguists, people who weren't chasing stock prices. They were chasing breakthroughs. And Google gave them something almost nobody else could: freedom, unlimited computing power, and the opportunity to solve problems that most experts believed were still decades away. By the middle of the decade, one thing had become painfully obvious: Google wasn't participating in the AI race. It was writing the rules. No company had more talent. No company published more influential AI research. No company looked better positioned to shape the future. If you had asked almost any AI researcher in 2016, which company would dominate artificial intelligence, the answer would have been almost unanimous: Google. But then, everything changed. Not because Google failed, because Google succeeded, far beyond anyone's imagination. In 2017, inside Google's research labs, a small group of researchers was struggling with a problem that had frustrated computer scientists for decades: language. For humans, understanding language feels effortless. Take this sentence: I went to the bank. Are we talking about money or a river? You know instantly, not because of the word, but because your brain understands context. Computers didn't. For years, AI models tried reading language one word at a time. They got smarter, but never truly intelligent. Then, someone inside Google asked a completely different question. What if the AI didn't have to read one word after another? What if it could pay attention to everything, all at once? That single idea changed artificial intelligence forever. Months later, 8 Google researchers published a paper with one of the most forgettable titles in computer science history: Attention is All You Need. The title sounded ordinary. The paper wasn't. Hidden inside those pages was a completely new architecture for artificial intelligence: the transformer. There was no product launch, no standing ovation, no billion-dollar keynote, just another research paper, quietly uploaded to the internet. At the time, almost nobody outside the AI community noticed, but history would, because those 15 pages would eventually become one of the foundations behind modern language AI. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, And many other systems would build upon the ideas introduced in that paper. It was like inventing the engine before anyone had imagined the airplane. Google had just built one of the most important inventions in modern computing. Now came the decision that would change everything. Most companies would have hidden it, protected it, turned it into the ultimate competitive advantage. Google did the opposite. Somewhere inside Google's headquarters, someone clicked publish. One click. That's all it was. No celebration, no headlines. Just another paper entering the internet. It looked ordinary. It became one of the most important clicks in the history of artificial intelligence. Because Google believed something that very few companies believed: knowledge grows when it's shared. The company published its research, released powerful tools, built an ecosystem that allowed researchers everywhere to experiment, improve, and innovate. Google believed it was accelerating science. It was, just not in the way anyone expected. Because while the rest of the world was discovering Google's breakthrough, something even more important was happening inside Google's own walls. The people who understood the transformer better than anyone else were beginning to walk away. Google had attracted some of the brightest minds in artificial intelligence. For years, that was its greatest advantage. But talent doesn't stay in one place forever. Some researchers wanted to move faster. Others wanted fewer layers of approval. Many simply wanted the freedom to build products instead of waiting for the perfect moment. One of those researchers was Noam Shazir. Inside Google, he had helped push the boundaries of language AI and was one of the co-authors behind the Transformer paper. He believed conversational AI could become something far bigger than anyone imagined. Google wasn't ready to pursue that vision in the way he wanted, so he made a decision that surprised many people. He left. Imagine that moment. One engineer, one laptop, one security badge, walking away from one of the safest and most prestigious jobs in technology. Not because he knew he would succeed, but because he believed the future could be built somewhere else. Together with former Google researcher Daniel DeFreitas, he launched Character.AI. The idea sounded simple: build AI that people could actually talk to, not search, not command, talk to. Millions of users quickly embraced it. What looked risky suddenly looked visionary, and Noam wasn't the only one. Former Google researchers were helping build companies like Cohere. Others joined OpenAI, others became part of Anthropic. Each departure looked like an individual career move, but together they revealed something much bigger. Google hadn't just trained employees, it had trained many of the people who would shape the next generation of AI companies. The empire that once looked impossible to challenge was now watching pieces of its own future being built outside its walls. And then, the story took one final twist, one that almost nobody saw coming. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. The AI race had become one of the biggest technology battles in history. Every company wanted to lead. Every breakthrough made global headlines. But beneath all the competition, one thing remained true. Google's fingerprints were everywhere. Its research had shaped the field. Its engineers had helped build many of the companies now driving the AI revolution. Its ideas continued to influence nearly every major language model. Then came the twist. Google invested billions of dollars into Anthropic, a company building AI systems that competed directly with Google's own products. At first, but it sounded impossible. Why would a company strengthen one of its own rivals? Because the AI industry had become more complicated than a simple competition. Anthropic relied on Google's cloud infrastructure. Google supplied the computing power that helped train advanced AI systems. The companies competed in one arena while cooperating in another. In the AI race, today's competitor could also be tomorrow's customer. The lines had blurred, and that's when the real story became clear. This was never a story about Google losing. It was a story about how one company's decisions reshaped an entire industry. Google believed that sharing knowledge would accelerate innovation. It did. Google trained extraordinary researchers. Many went on to build extraordinary companies. Google published breakthroughs that transformed artificial intelligence. The entire industry benefited. Once that knowledge entered the world, there was no taking it back.